Hello lovelies, and welcome to my channel, and welcome back if you are returning. And it's a slight welcome back for me too, because I have been absent from this space for a whole month, which is unheard of for me. I've been over in my doll room having the time of my life filming doll videos. That channel's always linked on this channel if you wanted to go and check it out, but I've been having a wonderful time. Now, coming back into this space, I saw a fantastic tag which does open up some brilliant areas for discussion, and it's the occulty tag, which I love the name of it for a start. It's by Ella Harrison, the Red-Headed Witch and the Polish Folk Witch. I think it's brilliant. So today I am going to take part and answer the different sections of the tag. The first one being about impact on the community, but first it asks me to introduce myself. So I am Candy. I am a 54-year-old witch living in England, single mom of 3 teenagers. I'm a special needs mom as well, and a trained artist and ex-teacher. So that's me. How long have I been practicing in this witchcraft online space? Well, if you look back at my channel, it will tell you I've been online about 8 or 9 years, but there are a few videos at the very start that I uploaded just for somewhere to store videos. At that time, I didn't even know people could watch your videos on YouTube. So when I very first started my channel, it was totally without an audience in mind, because I thought it was a video storage facility. But there you go. But it's only been, I think, gosh, I don't even know, since 2020 possibly, that I've started sharing videos for my witchcraft practice. Before that, possibly 2019, I don't even know, guys. It was to share my art and my gardening videos. What practices and topics do you discuss primarily? So primarily I discuss anything that is involved in my spiritual path. That revolves around divination and tarot and oracle. It evolves around working with nature spirits and deity. It involves art witchery, grimoires, my magic garden, so green witchery, using earth, all of those sort of practices. The first question: what is my personal reasoning or inspiration behind sharing my practice online? Well, my very first inspiration, really, I think, was watching gardening channels and homesteading channels, and especially channels like Beltane Cottage, which I just loved. Also, I was watching artists online, and I loved to watch work in progress videos. So I thought it would be really lovely to have a visual diary for myself of artwork in progress or my garden developing. So that's why I initially came onto YouTube. It was a visual diary for myself, and initially it was just shorts with no music, no speaking. It was literally just me storing my videos of my works in progress and the garden in progress. I think the point that I became more aware of an audience was when my kids started watching, and then I remember doing the very first garden tour where I was actually speaking with the thought that somebody else might be listening, and that felt like momentous. So for me, I think the point that it became not just a visual diary for myself was that very first magic garden tour where I actually spoke on camera. At the time, I was beginning to grow my grey out. I was loving working around the word rewilding. My garden is very wild as well. I love the idea of not gardening but working alongside nature and Mother Earth. So there was rewilding in my environment, rewilding in my soul, and that led me to find tarot channels and witchy channels. And at that point I realised my walk through life has always been a walk with witchcraft, even though I would never have called it witchcraft. I wouldn't have called it a spiritual practice. even my artwork, putting meanings into shapes and lines. It was a divination practice. I was walking the block, picking up rubbish to tell me signs for the day. I always say my first tarot deck was my rubbish walk. So there are lots of ways that I've always done divination and witchcraft without actually calling that or even realizing that. So once I found that all online and I began to put words to what I was doing and began calling myself a witch, it was a no-brainer for me then to be inspired to start sharing my progress as I stepped knowingly into my practice. And also, I quite like the idea of being the age I am, being a crone and being new to calling myself a witch. There was an inspiration behind that. I didn't see other older women online saying, hey, I think I might be a beginner at this, or I might not, I'm trying to work it out. So it was quite inspiring for me, I think, to be a voice for the older newbie, if you will. So what am I looking to achieve by participating? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? It's really got me thinking, to be honest, because I am a trained teacher and I think I'm a natural educator. I just can't help myself. I have taught all my professional life up until the point that I had to give it up to care for my disabled daughter. But coming into the space, feeling in many ways brand new to witchcraft, I wouldn't have wanted to have set myself up as a teacher for that. I think to profess to be able to teach something, you really need to be well versed in it. So I think the videos on my channel that lend more to sort of a teaching aspect of things to do with art or grimoire or art pages. I will share like 10 ways to or 5 ways to videos for things that are personal experience, but I think that's just more, I view that more as sharing experience to give other people ideas rather than teaching, as it were. I think there is a differentiation between a, hey, this worked for me, it might work for you, experience share, rather than a teaching video. I think the pure teaching videos, I would stick more to my art practice for now, because I am a trained artist. I have always worked all my life alongside educating as an artist. I've done art commissions, I've worked with lots of different age groups in big art projects, I've worked as an art coordinator, so my skill set really is there. And when I initially stepped into the space, I did think I was here to learn. I was very keen to profess I know nothing, I'm a newbie, and I think that's just an inherent habit of mine to put my own ability down. I think the longer that I've stepped into that rewilding space and to own my cronehood, and the longer that I've realised that, hey, you've been doing this practice all your life, you just weren't calling it witchcraft, I think the less and less I'm here to learn. I have a whole lifetime of experiences that I learn from, and to be totally honest, the things in my spiritual walk that I would like to learn, they can't be taught. They have to be lived and experienced, and for that reason I don't really think I'm here to learn, but definitely I'm here to connect. I've connected with some wonderful people in the tarot and witchcraft space. Some of them are now my chosen family, and I've connected with people either side of the camera as well, within my comment section, and the other side with other content creators. So definitely here to connect, and in equal terms disconnect as well from the people who don't come with good intent. So there's been lessons in connecting and disconnecting for me. How do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? Well, I think it's broadened the landscape. It's made the vista really bigger, hasn't it? And within that large vista, there are ups and there are downs. There are stagnant swamps with poison clouds drifting over them, and there are beautiful landscapes to be seen at the top of beautiful hillsides. It's like any landscape. If the landscape is opened, you're going to find quicksand, and you're also going to find the beautiful white sandy beach. You're going to find both. So there are pluses and there are minuses, and I think that goes for any online space or community. So as a traveller through any landscape, it's up to you to watch where you put your feet. Don't step in the quicksand. Go and walk on the nice beach, for goodness sake. And for that means the onus is on the viewer and the content creator to watch where they're stepping, and if the air smells off, to go in a different direction. So I think as the online space has opened up the community, it has allowed us to connect with some amazing kindred souls, that chosen family that I spoke about. But there are also people in the mix that you will want to steer clear of. But I think watch where you put your feet. The landscape is very big now, and with that come all things. The next question is, how do I think social platforms such as TikTok, Instagram and YouTube have each impacted education and sharing information? TikTok and Instagram, I do have accounts on, although I never go on my TikTok, and my Instagram I do rarely go on as well. I think YouTube is my desired platform. I like the long form content. I think the problem with all the platforms is the short form content, to be honest, the shorts and the quick snippets of information. And I think it affects us physically, it affects our attention span. Now, I have been horrified that if I click on a short, I can lose an hour just with it constantly refreshing. There is something so mind numbing that keeps you online once you click a short. And for me, I find that quite terrifying. I think with information being offered up in short bite-sized pieces as well, the chatter gets loud. It's just so easy for people to upload tons and tons and tons of information, and sometimes I don't know if that's always completely a great way or nuanced way to share what can be actually quite complex information to share. I know when I try and share aspects of my spiritual life, I sit in front of the camera before I turn it on and I think, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this that makes sense? And that takes sometimes quite long videos. So I think it's definitely increased to the mindless chatter of the space and can add to that. But again, the focus is on us to watch where we're treading. And if it sounds like mindless chatter and it isn't a song whose melody you like, then just don't watch. Go elsewhere. I think with the vistas opening up and becoming bigger, the bigger the landscape gets, the bigger the responsibility is on us to choose our paths with care. And the last question in this section is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? And I don't know whether I like that question, to be honest, because I think it's asking for an assumption on other people's practice. So if you're answering that with your full chest that yes, it is, then unless you're specifically voicing that you're talking about for yourself, you've fallen into the territory of judging other witches without knowing what's going on behind the scenes. And for me, that is one of the fundamental problems of social media and the witchcraft or tarot community. There is this jump from some to judge without knowing, to put words in mouths, or to look at one aspect and then make a whole ass story about who they are as a witch and what their practice is. So is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? I can't say yes or no for that because I don't know what other people's practice is like. For me, I can answer and I can say no, but it could easily become a problem if I again didn't choose my past carefully, if I didn't switch off my phone, if I kept continually scrolling. There are only so many hours in the day, and as a single mom, those hours for me are very few. If I was to just consume, I would never be able to practice or create. It would be gone forever. So I think there's a balance to be found there, and I think we all find our own balance. And sometimes that balance shifts. Sometimes we're researching and we're online a lot more than we're actually practicing, but I think that researching is part of our practice, surely. So sometimes, even if the balance goes up and I find myself consuming content a lot more in a particular week, that is still inherently part of my practice sometimes, depending on what I'm watching. But it's a very tricky question, that one, that does allow others to say yes with their whole chest and throw judgment at the community, which I really detest online. Out of what I share on social media, how much of it is staged versus reality? Oh my goodness me. Well, I have been on here with unbrushed hair, no makeup. I've been on here in my pajama top. I've cried on here numerous times. I find it really hard not to show my full colours. I am an open book. I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and I don't know any other way to be. So when I came online, it was with the understanding that that was what I was going to do. I might move the odd dirty coffee mug out of shot, which I did. I might sometimes put some nail polish on, which I did. I might even sometimes brush my hair and put a tiny bit of makeup on, which I did. But is that inauthentic? No, I would probably do that if I was going to the shops as well. It's just who I am. I've lit my candles, but I often light those red candles daily for my Morrigan practice. I've changed my camera around because I thought it looked really pretty today. So I've set up my shot, yes, and there is an awareness of the camera going on and people watching, yes. But I think that is still reality for me. So I'm also really time poor. So I have zero time to be able to fabricate something to film, because I wouldn't have time to actually do what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm a single mom. I have a disabled daughter. I spend 3.5 hours a day driving in the car for the school run. Time's limited. I have an hour walking dogs a day. It's a limited time frame that I get to practice. So the videos that you see are normally when I'm actually doing something and I think, oh, actually this might be interesting to film, and I'll shove the camera on. I'll put my phone in a phone holder and I'll just press film and I'll see if I can find a video out of it. That's mostly what my videos are filmed walking the dogs, because I'm actually walking the dogs. I film my monthly happies. They're snippets through the month of things that I'm actually doing that I think, wow, this is really interesting, and I'll get my iPhone out. Everything's done on my iPhone, and I'll just walk around my iPhone out because I think I could put this in my monthly happies. But it's all stuff that I'm doing. I think to stage stuff, you have to have more time than I've got. If you find somebody that's, is time poor, they're probably not staging it. Question number 2, do I think there's an element of censorship in online spaces? Yes, every online space has its own set of rules and its code of conduct online, which is very broad and sweeping. It does allow bullying and hate on there, which I really hate. But because this is about influencer authenticity, I'm going to aim that at myself. Do I censor myself online? Do you know what? I didn't think I did. I think this depends on how keyed into trying to please the algorithm you are and how focused on your numbers game you are, whether you want to gain subscribers. I think if that's your bag, then you are a little bit more liable to censor yourself, to provide the videos that people you know are going to watch, that's going to bring the crowds in. You're going to play to the algorithm more. For me, as a woman of crone age, talking about art and tarot and my flowers and dolls, I honestly didn't think anybody would ever watch. So I am not playing to the algorithms. So I thought this was an adamant no, I don't censor myself. But then I thought to myself, but Candy, why have you taken your dolls to a different channel if that wasn't censorship? And why did you then try and make a third channel? God forbid what I was thinking doing that for an art channel. And I thought, that is self-censorship. I was realising that people were really not watching the doll content here, and it isn't what I built my channel around, and people weren't watching a lot of my art videos here. So I thought, well, let's make separate channels for those. So that is me self-censoring on this channel, because really I would love my channel to just be everything I want to share. But it wasn't self-censoring for the algorithm or to get the views. It was realizing that my audience didn't necessarily like them as much. And I am inherently a people pleaser. I want my audience, if you're going to spend time with me, I want you to love what I'm making, and I wanted it to not be confusing what I was making. So that's why I took the different channels off. So I think we do have to watch ourselves for self-censoring. It can creep in for all sorts of reasons. I am actually thinking I'm going to bring my art back, but my Tiny Soul Whispers channel with the dolls, it's now, that feels like a separate home for me. So I'm really happy with that as a separate channel. That works for me brilliantly. But I think my art and my art witchery has enough crossover to make sense here, so I will bring that here. So I think algorithm, chasing numbers, people pleasing, and not wanting to confuse people can all play into self-censorship. How do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what to keep private? Now, for me with this, there are many videos that I've made that I've actually decided not to upload. For me, I get a gut feeling, and I think as witches we have to learn to trust that gut feeling. There is a little niggle of doubt, is have I overshared, have I overstepped the mark? So for me, I think that niggle, if that niggle comes in, I pay attention to it. That is my key way of deciphering what's appropriate for me to share. Now, I do actually share a lot of personal things because coming from DA and family scapegoating, there was a lot of healing involved in my practice. There is a lot of shadow work involved in my practice. There was a lot of rebuilding myself in my practice, and the whole point of me stepping into calling it witchcraft was a claiming back of power. So to be able to talk about that, I have to share some of the mud that I walked through, and I feel that that's a calling for me, because I know there are other people stuck in mud still trying to find a way out, and I very much in a lot of my videos want to speak to those people to get to a kinder, gentler space and to eradicate nasty voices of others that live in your head. My witchcraft practice is very much tied in with that journey. So for that reason, do share a lot of personal things, and I'm absolutely okay with that. What I'm not okay with is things like sharing my kids. I sometimes share Tilly, my eldest daughter, because she absolutely loves to be involved in the videos. She watches everything, she reads all the comments, she loves everybody, and she was over 16 when I started letting her into my videos, but it is still rare that I will include her in videos because I just like to protect my kids. Social media spaces can be very expansive and open to anybody and anything coming in. If I ever share a video or a picture of my children, or I talk about what we've done together, I get permission from my children first. I'll show them what I've videoed. If they give me a no, it gets deleted and it doesn't get shared. So I think I really protect their privacy, their anonymity, and their power to say yes or no, even though like my family life is a part of my practice too. Their privacy comes first. It's based on social media etiquette or personal preference, totally personal preference. Like I say, that gut instinct is my green light or red light, so it's absolutely personal. I know some of the things I share, other creators would never go that personal, but I only share what I'm absolutely okay with being viewed by anybody, and I know there are some hate watchers as well, so I'm completely okay with everything I share. Everything gets run past my gut first. Have I encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Yes. I mean, I think grifters can be split into two types of grifters. There are the financial grifters, which I think, come on guys, they're easy to spot now. The ones that come into your DMs saying, I have a special connection to you. If you give me some money, I can do a reading. I feel really compelled to read to you. Nobody worth their salt would do that. So those are the financial grifters, or the people who have been reading tarot for 1 month and then want to sell a course. They're the financial grifters that aren't doing their due diligence and haven't built community. However, I think the worst type of grifters in our community are the emotional grifters. The grifters that, how do we spot emotional grifters? They use comparison, I think. I think there is always a me and then there's you, with a tone or sneer behind those words. And I think those can do a lot of damage to viewers and content creators alike. So this ties into the next couple of questions. Do I recognise grifters? And what are the significant signs of grifters in the community? I think look for comparison. If somebody starts most of their videos by saying, this is just about my practice and me and my opinions, but then goes on to create a video where they talk about their own practice by using a mirror of other people's practice, like a reflection, like I would never do what these people do, I wouldn't collect, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do this. And they're using a mirrored reflection of others to talk about themselves. There is a comparison there, and it's a polarity. They're talking about them in the video in order to talk about themselves, and I think that polarity in the way emotional grifters talk can create a polarity in the community. You'll see it then. If you suspect you've seen that in a video, I suggest you go to the comment section. The comment section will say more clearly what the person is trying to passively aggressive say. See it in the comment section. I love to find the channels where they truly just sit down and they talk about their own practice. They say, look, I've got this collection and I love it. There's no comparison. They are focused in their video, just purely talking about themselves. So look for people who use reflected comparison, and then look at the comment section. It will tell you everything you need to know, because one thing I've learned as a crone that has lived through abusive systems is that birds of a feather flock together. You will often see a creator's intent mirrored in a comment section, to be honest. Best just to disengage and walk away. I think another way that comparison comes into play is if you see people fighting for the moral high ground passive aggressively. Again, it's that there's them and there's me and I'm up here and they're down there. It's fighting for some sort of moral high ground rather than just sharing the things that you love and practice. I think to claim passively aggressively a moral high ground, you've done that comparison again. You have to be saying, I do this and this is better than you down there that do that. So comparison, polarity, reflecting your practice by passively aggressively talking about others, and birds of a feather flock together. Those are some key things that I've used to really help me not get burnt so much. And I have been burnt in this community, and it has been horrible, and it has nearly made me leave more than once. But as a crone witch now embracing power, I am beginning to put on my black protective crystals to put protection eyes in my videos. I've learnt to put a protective pentagram on myself with oils before I do a video. I've learnt to use the block button as a banishing spell. It's perfect. It's a banishing spell in the witchcraft community. That block button, that delete button, that unfollow button. Just, you soon learn who to stay away from. And another top tip is if you find yourself going to certain channels because you know that their videos throw up tea and there might be a bit of drama hidden in, and I think all of us off the top of our heads can think of channels that we know if we click on a video there might be tea in that video somewhere, there might be a comparison somewhere in that video. You've probably found yourself an emotional grifter. Just saying. How can we prevent widespread misinformation in the community? I think again the onus is on us as viewers and consumers. We just need to hone and listen to our gut instinct as witches, and if it sounds like idle chatter to you and not a song that you want to listen to, go and find somebody whose melody you want to listen to. Do your own research, more than one source as well, and your own personal gnosis. For me, I don't want somebody to tell me a set way of doing something if my personal gnosis and my lived experience is telling me something different. I think personal gnosis is so important in witchcraft, and are we forgetting that? Because at the end of the day, the books on witchcraft that tell you that you do things A, B, C and D, that was probably once somebody else's personal gnosis. So it's difficult. Witchcraft knowledge and the spiritual path knowledge, I've said before in this video that a lot of the things that I want to find out and know answers to are things that can't be taught. I have to seek out the experience and live it myself. So I think depend more on your own research and your own personal gnosis first, and never abandon your gut instinct. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Well, I think it gives them authority. I think if you click on a channel and they've got like 1 million subscribers, they've automatically got authority just by the fact of that number. However, is that authority always justified? No. Do we still need to go into watching them with our gut instinct intact? Yes, of course we do. Are there grifters who have 1 million subscribers? Yes. And again, the onus is on us. We're all witches in this community. You have to own your own power when you're online. Just because somebody is heralded as an expert, has written 3 books, has got 1 million subscribers, you might disagree with everything because it doesn't match your own personal gnosis. I am a witch that will say you have to go with your own personal gnosis first. You just have to. Does that mean you can just make your own stuff up? No, of course it doesn't. It's like learning tarot. Of course the meanings of the cards are important. Of course understanding the astrology and the decans behind it, it adds so much into it. Of course colour references on cards are really important. But does that mean you should ignore your own personal associations to the cards and your own lived experience with cards and your own intuition when you pull a spread? Of course not. There's a balancing act there to be had. So personal gnosis, you're not just making stuff up. I think even personal gnosis, you have to follow more than one experience before you validate it as something you want to incorporate into your practice. A large following immediately makes somebody an expert. I think I've answered that, but no, definitely not. Are there other assumptions as to why they may have a large following? Assumptions. I don't know. I don't know what other people would assume. I think to sell a channel, with any selling, youth and beauty sells everything, doesn't it? So I think if somebody's very young and beautiful and has got charisma, that's going to sell a channel really quickly. Does that mean that I think the youth and the beautiful people have got no valid voice? No, because it doesn't tarry. You can be young and beautiful and have the most amazing insight and wisdom to share that I, as a crone, would just adore to listen to. And likewise, I think crone age women and everybody in between has a valid voice too. But I do think in a consumerist market, which YouTube is, that a channel can be sold by youth and beauty. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? I don't like this question either. What is it with the last question on each of these topics? So to maintain a balance between authenticity and content creation, it almost implies to me that it's two different things that you have to balance. Just be authentic all the time in your content creation, and there's nothing to balance then. If it's implying how to keep the balance between all of your practice and content creation, yeah, don't film everything. Who's got time to film everything that they do? So some things you might need to have a little chat with yourself about what things you do want to keep private. I don't film my meditations. I don't film a lot of my spell work. I don't film a lot of stuff, actually, just because it all gets siphoned through my gut instinct of, is this appropriate to share or not? So I think if you're filming absolutely everything and you haven't thought about this, then it might be something for you to think about. If you're filming absolutely everything and uploading everything you do and you're happy with that, then you do you, that's fine. But yeah, I think authenticity and content creation is probably about the amount of stuff that you're filming and sharing. I do like to keep some things private. First question: when I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired and empowered, or does it create feelings of FOMO and being less than? Both. I think when I first came into the space, because I felt my age within the space and I felt the newness of it all, and I wondered whether I even had a voice to share, being like a 50 plus woman who was new to it. I mean, who's 50 plus and new to stuff in the community? Very few people. I did kind of feel a little bit like I was an imposter. I've made videos about this as well. It wasn't helped by passive aggressive videos being made by other content creators aimed my way, and I wish people wouldn't do it, because what is the end goal there apart from that comparison game again? So I have experienced that very early on in my YouTube journey, very early on, and I think after about 4 or 5 months I very nearly left YouTube. I'm so glad I didn't, because now the longer that I've walked this path, the more I have no imposter syndrome anymore. At the end of the day, how can you have imposter syndrome if you are just sharing your practice and your truth? You're not setting yourself up as some grand expert to change the world. You're just sharing your experiences. I think the videos I make, because that's what I'm doing, there is no room in that for imposter syndrome, because I'm just sharing me and my walk, my daily walk. So for fear of missing out, I've definitely been pushed to buy more decks than I would have without watching YouTube. I know that because I've done a couple of depth years and I've gone periods of time without buying decks, and I've had to do that by not watching YouTube. But it was bought just because I love decks and you showed something beautiful and I really wanted it. It was never bought because I thought I would miss out if I didn't have it, or I would be excluded from the community, or I wouldn't fit in. Nothing has ever been bought with the idea of fitting in. And it reminds me of, it was Brené Brown who said that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And that was a revelationary thing to hear, because to fit in, you have to not be yourself. You have to buy the things that other people have got. You have to say the things that other people say that might not be authentic to you. So yeah, you're fitting in, but you're not belonging because you're not showing the true you. So I think FOMO can be counteracted with holding on to that idea of the opposite of belonging is fitting in. I think we're here to be our authentic selves and to bring something unique. And to be unique, you can't fit in. So I just think that I love to find unique people. And FOMO, no, you'll push me, you'll encourage me to spend my money. Doll tube is the worst for that. I want all the dolls. But it's not because I want to fit in. I still want to bring my unique, authentic voice, which is what kept me on YouTube, even though people tried to shove me off early on. Because I thought, well, a 50-plus woman who's a newbie is a unique voice in the space. Let's stay here and do that. Let's not fit in. Let's belong. Make a community to belong in with authenticity. Let's not fit in. If I experience FOMO, has it ever left me feeling vulnerable to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise? No, I don't experience FOMO in that way. I experience FOMO in like, there's a doll I want and it's about to go out of stock and I know that I might not find her again. But it's not FOMO to try and fit in. Have I overspent? Yes. Have I pulled it back in other areas? Yes. I think financially you do have to watch it. I have to watch all of my finances because they're limited. Plus I have to watch it not so much because of FOMO, but because of my collector's gene. If you give me any information on anything and I start researching it, my collector's gene will kick in, and that's on me. That's not on any pressure from the community. That's an internal part of my makeup. I think sometimes you're either a collector or you're not, and I have always, from a tiny little girl, been a collector. So for me, that's where I can get financially vulnerable, and it's all self-imposed. And I think sometimes collectors talking about finances in the community we have to be careful not to point the finger of others making us. I make myself spend money, and my tarot collection and my doll collection is a pointing case, but it's us to keep us in check. So the example of FOMO that was given is the need to purchase the latest popular product or book to fit in. Never have I felt that. Like I say, often the stuff I buy is really uncool and I just love it. So even the stuff I do feel FOMO on, it's not going to make me fit in anywhere. It's going to make me more of a fringe person anyway. I've never really been cool, guys. When practicing my craft, do I find myself comparing what I do to what I've been seeing people do online? Yes, but only in a brilliant way, only in a lovely way. I never look at people and think, oh, you're doing it like that, I must be awful. Actually, I'm going to take that back. Sometimes I do look at how beautiful and aesthetic people's videos and spaces are, and I do think I'm lacking, or I need to do something better. So yeah, sometimes my little internal voice of nastiness goes off and says, oh, your space looks a mess, your space has got too many coffee mugs in. So I'm going to take that back. Sometimes it does, but then it doesn't stay like that, and it's not on the other person. That's on my voices in my head. But it very quickly now, and this is what witchcraft has done, witchcraft has learnt me to shut that voice up and to go, don't look at what you do, this is good, this is good, this is good, to self-validate, to look internally. I think my witchcraft practice has nipped that in the bud. So there are moments like that where I think, oh my gosh, that's so much nicer than what you've got, but then I also delight in it at the same time. I love that for people. I love that their space looks amazing. I love that they've got the best tarot collection I've ever seen. I love a doll room that is incredible. Some of my favourite doll channels have doll collections that I could never ever own, and I love them. I think I'm happy for people when they do something that I think, wow, I could never do that. So the niggly voice doesn't stay very long, because delight takes over, and it does inspire me to set my space up nicer, and I love it for that. In what ways do I combat imposter syndrome? I've used the block button as a binding spell and the unfollow button. I think anybody throwing out content that does that comparison game, or that I'm on a moral high ground game, and likes to shove other people off any moral high ground, those people, I think you can very quickly realise who those people are. And if you love consuming that sort of drama and you watch them for that, then that's your bag. It's not my bag, because it can get in and start to sink my ship. I get very self-protective. I think this is coming from a past history of PTSD, from various forms of, I won't say the word, but you know what, I have to self-protect. So if I see anybody throwing that out or degrading the types of things I do, I've heard it a few times. If I find somebody that I think is mean-spirited enough to degrade somebody else's practice or what they might be doing, I will use that unfollow and block button as a binding spell. It keeps my space much more gentle, and I think that's good advice for anybody. Any video that you feel uneasy after you've watched, and that's a consistent pattern on that person's channel, then don't watch them. I do seek out the kind people, I do seek out the gentle people, and there are so many creators out there that can deliver their message without any ounce of spice or drama or tea or comparison or shade throwing, and those are the people that I watch. And it does mean that I don't feel that accidentally I'm hearing things that would invalidate what I do. And I think I give importance to and validation, self-validation to my own practice. Like for a long time I used to say, oh, that's probably just my imagination, and I've done lots of videos about the magic of the imagination and the fact that the imagination is a portal to your own magic. So I think once I started giving myself self-validation for personal experiences on my practice, it makes it invalid then when other people try and come in and make me feel an imposter, or when my internal voices call me an imposter. There is a step towards more self-validation and a shutting down of that voice for me, which has been a direct result of walking this path, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. There's been a lot of growth for me since I've started my channel and started this path, and it's just been a wonderful journey that I've felt really privilege to be able to share with you all. What would my practice look like without the social media influence of other creators? It might still be just called gardening and artwork, rather than green witchery and rewilding and working with Mother Nature and art witchery. I think for me personally, the witchcraft space validated what I was doing anyway as a path, as a practice. It kind of opened my eyes, so it might have still carried on the same way. I'm very grateful for the influence of other kind and honest creators. Do I consider online communities as equally valid to in-person communities? Yes, absolutely, because some of us are time poor and challenge heavy. So as a mum of a child with an extreme special need, it is very difficult for me to go out. I have no family support. I have no friends that can step in. I have no other support provided by the state. I'm still fighting for that. So for me to go out into community, it's incredibly difficult. I think if you are completely living outside of the world of disability and you're completely able-bodied, so you've got no children yet, it's much easier for you to engage in real life in-person communities. For people like myself, who my whole world revolves around the world of disability, is a lot harder in many aspects to do that, and my online community has felt a wonderful balance to the isolation that special needs parents can feel and also disabled people can feel. I am a big advocate for online spaces because of that, and to be honest, some of the people that I've met in my online space are now my chosen family, and I talk regularly with behind the scenes, and I love dearly. So yeah, I do think it's really valid. How have online occult witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and practitioner? Wow, they've opened my eyes. They've given me the words that I needed to describe my practice. They've reformed my boundaries and strengthened them when things have gone astray. They have taught me to look internally more. They have given me a chance to test my boundaries and my self-love. They've given me different ways of approaching self-love or self-validation. They have taught me about subjects that I'm interested in. I think people sharing their time, their wisdom, their experiences online is such a gift. The content creators do this virtually for free, and we're going to get to other things about money in a moment, but for the majority of us with small channels, we are doing this because we just want to share, and I am eternally grateful to the content creators that have opened my eyes to this whole world of magic, which is wonderful. On the flip side of that, again, the witchcraft community and online spaces are vast vistas, and there is that double-edged sword. Sometimes I have been impacted negatively. I have had my fair share of emotional grifters coming after me passive aggressively, or not so passive aggressively, just aggressively. I have had videos made making judgments about me. I have had people put words into my own mouth and make videos about it. All of that has stung. Of course it does, we're only human, but in turn it has helped me to see where I want to put my feet in the landscape and where I want to steer clear of. It's taught me, it's given me a chance to practice those newly formed boundaries after a lifetime of being a people pleaser. And I think every time I've used a boundary and stuck with it and self-validated and recognised projection and recognised falseness and just carried on without it changing my content or changing my practice. It's made me feel more powerful. So yeah, I think you always get the rough with the smooth, no matter what path you're walking, but you choose where to put your feet again. What are the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalising off the witchcraft community? Well, I think there's financial grifters who are conning people. I mean, that's terrible. If anybody gets conned, that's really horrible. But there is a personal responsibility to double check and to check sources and to validate sources and to follow your own gut there. Have I been personally affected by this, or have I witnessed somebody else be affected? I've certainly had people come into my DMs offering me readings, pretending to be big content creators. I've had my fair share of that, as I'm sure we all have. I've seen other people point fingers at and put the blame on others for the fact that they're being affected, which I think at some point we have to take personal responsibility. It's a self-focus. So I haven't enjoyed watching that. I haven't enjoyed, in the witchcraft space, people blaming others for what they have ended up doing or the money that they've spent. I don't like that. Should there be paywalled communities and online courses? Yes, of course. I think if somebody has a skill set to teach and experience to back it up, then by all means put that behind a paywall. A lot of these videos take hours and days to make, especially if it's a course you're offering. We wouldn't expect to walk into a hairdresser's and get our hair cut for nothing. We wouldn't expect to walk into a clothing designer's studio and take a jacket for nothing. So why on earth should somebody share their skill set and their experience and expect no payment? And if you can't pay the cost, then you look elsewhere. There's lots of free content as well. I think some courses that I've seen, I've found the free content that covers the same basis. So, but does that mean the person shouldn't have made a paid course? No, of course people should be able to earn money within their practice. For some courses, however, though, I don't personally buy courses because I do wonder how certain things, and a lot of our magical practices, how can you teach that? How can you teach that? Like I said, most of the things that I want to know and learn and experience can't be taught. And I think if people say they can be taught, then whose gnosis are they teaching? So yeah, I don't do set ritual magic. I don't do any of that, so I don't need teaching for that. I think it depends on where your practice is going for how valid courses are for you to participate in or not. For me, I don't feel like 95% of courses are valid for me to participate in. So, but by all means, make a course, but consumer beware. It's up to you to do the research before you hand over money, as in any online space. How does one ensure the authenticity of courses, workshops, memberships, etc. as a financial investment? Yeah, I think you just have to do your homework. I would say if it's a complete stranger and you've done no background research into who they are and you're about to sign up for a course, then buyer beware. That seems foolish to me. If you are heavily invested in somebody's content and you think they're wonderful and they're offering some sort of membership, then I know that I support just a few of content creators in like lower paid level memberships just to support them, because I think what they do for free is fantastic. I don't do it for everybody because I just don't have the budget. There are some higher level memberships from people who I personally respect and follow online that I would love to be a part of, but I just can't afford it. For workshops, I think you look at the pricing of the workshop, you look at reviews, you talk to people who might have also done the workshop, you find out what's involved first before you hand over money. I think if there isn't a way to research and there isn't enough information about a workshop to quite work out what's being offered, then I would steer clear of that. Go with people you know. You can make a more savvy financial decision for yourself. But with all of that said, I would also reiterate, please don't forget your personal gnosis for going outside the door and seeking the experience for yourself. I think within that there is probably more witchcraft magic and power to be brought to yourself than in finding out about somebody else's experience. What are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community? I think I'd just like gentle sharing really of people's experiences. I'd like to see more things taking place outside. Like I started the series called Adventure Tarot because I was personally fed up of my tarot practice being stuck to my desk. Watching tarot content at people's desks, I wanted to see tarot on adventures being taken out. So that's why I started my series Adventure Tarot, and that has led me to some of the most magical experiences ever outside. So I'd like to see like the magic actually in action, and not just being spoke about as a sort of learnt lesson at the desk. So I love those videos. I know Trish over at Beanbag Hagwag, she often talks about her practice in a real gentle way whilst out and about, and I love that, and I know she said the same thing as well. What are my community needs? Personally at the moment, my community needs are just to, I think I've got to bring it a bit more insular. I was trying to follow and support too many people. That led me to seeing some poison within the community. For me, I need to keep it close to home, gentle. I'll follow the people that will bring kindness and not drama to the community. So I have to police that for myself. Here in my community, oh my gosh, guys, just carry on doing what you're doing. There is a lot of kindness, there is a lot of love, there is a lot of support and encouragement here in my own personal space community, and I love that. I will continue to block the people that want to bring hate so that we don't get that in the comments section. That is that is my witchcraft binding spell. Because I'm really keen to keep my personal community here really safe. Would I like to feel more held and supported? I honestly don't think I could feel more held or supported than you guys have already made me feel. You have allowed me to step into the power of this practice, and that has come through the comment section and the kindness and the encouragement, and I will be forever grateful about that. Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen by my community? I can see it sometimes when everything goes south, and I've heard some like people saying mean things about me, but to be honest, you quickly learn who to steer clear of in the community and who to unfollow and to stop watching. And I think as long as I know when to unfollow, and I'm happy to unfollow, then those people who want to actively misunderstand or misrepresent me are just gone out of view then, and you just carry on, don't you? You're always going to get that in any walk of life. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and grow in community? I don't feel any external peer pressure, to be honest. That might be my age. It might be different if you're younger, but I am beyond taking nonsense or shoulds, you should be, or you know, you've done that wrong, and that sort of peer pressure into account, because again, it isn't brain surgery, isn't something that you have to do right. What is the right way when it comes to witchcraft? This isn't prescriptive. So I think any peer pressure, I think if peer pressure starts to come in, it's normally just straight up negativity and meanness, and that can just be blocked. How can we as a community come together with constructive criticism without it seeming shady, passive or aggressive? Well, Trish said this the best: just don't be shady and passive aggressive. It's simple. And talk about yourself more. I think when people begin to talk about others and other practice, and then you've got that polarity, I'm here and I'm talking about them there, that's when it can get shady pretty damn quick. But I think if you talk about yourself and your own practice, and you keep it focused on what you're doing, I think that really helps. Who are some community members that I look up to that are reliable resources and aspirations? I'm going to say Trish at Beanbag Hagwag. I love her so much, and yeah, she's really, really special to me. So I'm going to stick with Trish. There are so many. If I start naming loads, then I'll feel sad for people that I don't mention. The people pleaser in me kicks in when I'm asked questions like this. I'm always scared that by mentioning some, I'm going to offend others. So because I've mentioned Trish a few times, I am going to stick to my sister in witchcraft, Trish. So to consolidate, I think for me the thing that's come up the most is that idea of comparison and not self-focus when you are creating witchcraft content. Here are the police coming to get the grifters. So I think if we can share our shiny bits and come to any community space with a intent to share what we love without doing the reflective comparison, I think that keeps spaces gentle, it keeps spaces kind. I think the other conclusion was social media spaces are very big open landscapes that do come with good or bad, so expect both, but to hold on to personal responsibility, that you choose where your feet tread. So gauge it all, and then finally trust your gut instinct. You have an inherent power as a witch, and it's mad to dismiss your gut instinct when that power is held within you. It's there for a reason. So guys, thank you so much for listening. It has been a long one. You're still here at the end of that video. Thank you so much. What a mammoth tag this is to do. Thank you to the 3 creators. I will link everybody below. I'll link Trish below. I really appreciate your time and your attention to be here and to listen. It's never taken as a given, and it is always received with great appreciation. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.